The end of an era. In May 10th, Apple announced that they would discontinue their final product on the iPod line, the iPod Touch. In this video, we're gonna walk back in time and talk about all those models that the iPod had. Also, I will be telling you why, in my opinion, it was the right decision in order to discontinue the iPod, as much as it hurts, because it does. The iPod had a special place. Also, I will be telling you why, in my opinion, the iPod was the true device that saved Apple. So let's get to it. Okay, let's start talking about the original iPod with the traditional design. The original iPod had 6 generations. Most of the generations were more aesthetic changes more than anything else. The OG, for example, had a mechanical wheel, but by the second generation, it had moved to this touch-sensitive wheel that it did not physically move. On the fourth generation, it brought for the first time a colored display. All the iPod models before had a black and white display. And also, by the fifth generation, it adopted the click wheel from the iPod mini, which is the one that we're going to be talking about next. Next, we're going to be talking about the iPod mini. The iPod mini only had 2 generations, and the word says it, or the name says it. It was a miniaturized version of the iPod. It only, as I just said, had 2 generations, and it was automatically replaced with the iPod Nano, which is the one that we're going to be talking about next. The iPod Nano had 7 generations. In my opinion, it had the weirdest design or changes in design from any of the other iPod models. It started being slick and thin and tall. Then it went to short and chubby. Then it went into a watch type of design. And then it went back on its final version into back to being thin and tall. My first introduction to the iPod was actually with the iPod Nano. I had the first generation, and then I had the 6th generation, which is, I believe, the one that gave Apple the idea to finally go on and design what eventually became the Apple Watch. Honestly, in my opinion, it was a great device. The iPod 6th generation was a great device. The only issues that I had with it later on were battery life, but that happens with every electronic device that depends on battery. Now we're going to be talking about the iPod Shuffle next. The next device that we're going to be talking about is the iPod Shuffle. The iPod Shuffle had 4 generations, and in my opinion, it was one of the coolest devices that Apple made in the iPod line, especially that first generation. The reason I say that, even though most people didn't like it because there was no display for you to know exactly where you were, and if you had a lot of songs, you kind of got lost in everything that you had inside the device. But that first generation, you pulled the cap from the bottom and it was a USB connector for you to plug into your computer, sync it with iTunes, and then you would have all your music right there. You didn't have to carry any cables or anything like that to sync it with iTunes like the other, all or most of the other versions that I'm going to be talking about today. Anyways, it went from that short design, then it went to a larger design with a belt clip. Then it went back to the small design with a belt clip, and then finally it finished with a little larger design with a rectangular shape. They basically all had the click wheel in one way or another. The final model that we're going to be talking about is the iPod Touch. This one is tied for the most iterations of that device with the iPod Nano. Basically, the difference between every generation was either increase in storage, increase in the screen size, or better processor. This was basically the last iPod that was remaining. And actually, I have a surprise for you guys here. This is a working second generation iPod Touch. As you can see, it works. You can see the design of the OS right on your displays. I actually, when I was able to turn this on, it brought me back because I actually really like that 3D design more than I like the design of the OS right now. I actually wish they would bring this back. I know they probably won't, but I actually like this design a lot more from the operating system. This was one of the devices that I had from the iPod. It was the only one that I had. After this, I automatically switched to the iPhone 3G, was my first iPhone. Um, and most people, this is the reason why I think that Apple decided to discontinue the iPod line. Instead of purchasing the device, most people just decided, I'm going to buy myself, if for example, it's going to be for my child or something like that, or for a family member, I'm just going to buy myself the new iPhone, give that iPhone without a SIM card to that child, and then he will have basically a better working iPod than the actual iPod Touch. So I guess that's the reason why Apple decided to stop selling the iPod. Okay, to finish up, it is my opinion that even though the multicolored Mac is the one credited with saving Apple from bankruptcy by barely keeping it afloat, in my opinion, it is the iPod that started Apple's incline to become the mega company that it is today. One last time, we remember the iPod Touch. If you like this video, or if you have any comments regarding what we discussed today, if you remember any iPod that you had, go ahead and leave it in the comments below. As always, while you're down there, press that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can get notified when we have new videos. Remember, we're available on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and obviously YouTube at JR Abrams Tech, so you can stay up to date with the latest news and rumors about tech. Until next time.